Good morning. My name is Noel Castillo, and I'm a software developer working at Talent Path. This week, we're talking about PostgreSQL, and I want to go over some of the basics on using it, as well as using foreign keys and bridge tables. So when you launch Postgres, it's going to bring up a window in your browser called pgadmin. From here, looking at the top, you have databases where you can create new databases. Within the database, you have your schema, public, and then tables where you can create new tables. I already have all the ones I needed created. Um, I want to show you guys this one, a table called dishes. Here you can put the name for your table. I'm just calling mine as dishes. And on the columns you can put in the variables that this class would have. For example, an ID to represent each dish, each unique dish, and a name for that dish. And if you wanted to, you can add in some more variables as well. But I'm not going to right now. Just gonna leave it at that. So underneath my dish table, I have two variables, two columns, one for ID and another one for name. And I have another table here called recipes. Underneath this recipes, I have five variables: ID, dish ID, name, instructions, and prep time. So in particular, this dish ID, this is a foreign key referencing the ID here in dishes. And now in order to make that in order to make that into a foreign key, you need to go here under constraints and then go underneath foreign key. Now here, when you can create a foreign key with the plus sign again, F key, dish ID as an example. And on the left, there's a little notepad with a pen, edit row. You can click that. Underneath the columns, you can say what variable underneath this table is a foreign key, which is dish ID. Then you say what table is it referencing, which is dishes, and what variable underneath the other table that's referencing is it's going to be ID in this case, but what it's making a reference to. So the reason why you want to do this is because in a real world scenario, a dish can be prepared with different recipes. So for each recipe, I want it to be known what dish it creates. And I can have many recipes to this one dish. Now, if I were to have, now this is called a one-to-many or many-to-one relationship. And something different would be possibly the ingredients for recipe. You can have a lot of ingredients that take in a certain ingredient, or you can have one recipe that takes in a lot of different ingredients. So you wouldn't use foreign keys. You would use foreign keys for that, but you would use a bridge table. So here I have a table called recipe ingredients, and it's going to have four variables, four columns. Two are the foreign keys, bridging together the recipe table and ingredients table. So I call them recipe ID, ingredient ID. I have some extra variables here for other purposes, not so much for the relationship. So these two, recipe ID and ingredient ID, are the foreign keys that I need to make that bridge table and to build that many-to-many relationship. So same thing, once we're here, we can go underneath constraints. We'll go to foreign key. And you can see I've already created these here, but I'll just go through creating another one. So you can call this whatever you want. This is just my preference for how I like to name my foreign keys. So you put a name for a foreign key. You go to the edit row. You go to columns, and again, you mention what variable underneath this table, recipes ingredients, is going to be the foreign key. So I want to do ingredient ID. What table is it going to reference? That's going to be ingredients table. And what variable or what column underneath the table it's referencing is the one I want the foreign key to be tied to. So I want my ingredient key to be a foreign key that's pointing to the ID and ingredients. So just like that, once I have that all set up, I can press the plus sign here and it creates it. I already have it created, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete this. So the reason why you want to build these relationships is when you're making queries and you want to reach certain data or filter out for certain variables or certain values, having these connections helps you get the data that you want, and it helps you present your code on the front end a lot easier as well. For example, like if you want to like filter out for a certain dish and you want to see like what recipes are linked to that dish, the use of foreign keys and makes that happen. Or if you want to see all the recipes that take in certain ingredients, again, bridge tables are what makes it happen. So I hope you learned something today. Using foreign keys and bridge tables, they're they they can make or break your code. It's a hassle to get them the right direction. Sometimes you gotta mess around with it a little bit, see if you're able to get the queries that you want. Um, Otherwise, you might need to go back and refix your relationships. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.